Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're doing another weekly episode of Take My Money, where we look at some crowdfunding projects that are going on right now relating to board gaming and see what we think of them. And this week we've got
Yes.
all from Kickstarter,
Yep.
so you don't have to be going to GameFound and whatever the other ones are that will have the random project or two. Uh, yeah, we'll just let you know our thoughts on them. Let us know what you're kickstarting in the comments below, or what you're looking forward to if there's anything coming up. But yeah, or if you're excited about any of these, let us know as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just get right into this one, and it is The Presence, a Victorian horror board game. Which this is one of the two, I think, horror games.
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
there's another one that,
three.
yeah,
Three. So they're starting off. You'll see them in a minute here, but yeah. So it's kind of a horror themed game. And it's got 81,000, over 1,000 backers, and still 10 days to go. And yeah, pretty much in this one, kind of made me think of Clue, as there
yep,
was this kind of board of this mansion, and some players will be playing the investigators, trying to figure out the mystery behind the spirit, and one player will be the spirit, and they will either be a good or evil spirit, and communicating with the other players as such, either trying to trap them and defeat them if you are an evil spirit, or help them along if you are a good spirit.
hmm yeah. I thought it sounded like it could be interesting. I don't know that this is our style of game necessarily. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
like the
overall,
theme. I like
yeah,
that theme. I don't know if it's going to work, like
right.
gameplay wise. That feels like some that would be hard to actually perfect, either being good or bad, the option. But it's
hmm
a really cool idea.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of wonder if, yeah, once you play it a couple times, if, like, the times are good versus the times are bad, if it kind of obviously feels different. I don't know exactly how it plays out just from the brief looking at it. But yeah, it could definitely be interesting. And if you like that style of game, I think it takes a specific group, because there's definitely when
Yeah,
you have a thing where one player is potentially having to do something against the other players, that can sometimes be difficult, especially if that. I think
yeah,
at least this one you know ahead of time, versus there are the games where you find out you're the one odd one some way through the game, or maybe initially but not ever no one. You're the only one that knows, type thing. So at
yeah,
least it
yeah,
doesn't have that, so that might be a little bit different.
yeah,
That makes it like, okay, we're not going to make the brand new player be this thing because might be more
yeah,
difficult to do that than be part of the bigger group.
yeah, yeah. And there's only one pledge level unless you are a retailer. There
No,
is
yep,
just $57 for the pledge, which I always like that when there's just one core pledge, no FOMO
I
or
agree.
anything like that. And shipping would be about $16 as well. So it comes about to 70 to $80 there,
Yeah,
which is a bit much for us
yeah,
with the large collection, trying to keep it a little slim.
right.
Nowadays, it's hard to get into all of these new games, but it does look
Yeah,
like it has a lot of good pieces. I really love these door
I
pieces
did
where
like those quite a
you
bit.
kind of slide it, and if you're locking the door, you flip them over, and they have this little icon on there. I really like that.
I like that quite a bit as
It
well.
shouldn't be the selling point. That shouldn't sell me on a game, but it almost did.
I know that was somehow my favorite part about it, which I don't know what that said, like you said about the game, but yes, more games that use doors need to use this.
Yes. Yeah. So that is that one. On to another kind of very horror themed game, horror movie themed game is Final Cut, a horror movie card game, which this is created by some people who do a horror movie podcast. I think it is something like
Yeah, I
that.
think that's what I said.
So it's got $37,000 here, 741 backers, and this one's a little simpler game. It's pretty much trying to create you get a hero or a villain and a victim, and I think a location and a weapon or something. You need one of each to complete your movie. and within those you want matching genre symbols, I believe, subgenre symbols. So that's the core of the game. It's how you score points, trying to match up the symbols on the cards in your movie, which is very simple, and kind of in the example they had, it ended up being 6 to 7 points. So at that loses a little interest from me, because I'm like, you're doing all this stuff, and then at the end it's just a simple collect 2
Set
symbols
collection.
or 3 little set collection. So probably not enough to get me into the game, or anyone, I would say, if you are not a fan of the genre of horror movies and kind of all the Easter eggs. I think that's the selling point of this one.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I was actually liking it from that, especially if it was a simpler game. That I don't mind it sometimes. Then if it's kind of more of a simpler scoring thing, but uh, when I think it was the video or something talked about like, oh, you can play this card and it forces your opponent to randomly get rid of a card, and I just don't like that in games. And so that was like an immediate turn off. I'm like, that just I don't know.
Yeah, I think
It can work in some games, and maybe it would work in this. I have not played it, but
yeah,
it's just always kind of a frustrating mechanism. I feel like, or mechanic. I feel like you could even have that where even if you play one back at them, like they could have got rid of your one card that was gonna like
yeah,
bring all your stuff together, and then you get rid of a card that they're like, I didn't really even need that card, so it doesn't really hurt equally. Um,
yeah.
and I'd rather have the game kind of be playing against all the players equally
Oh,
versus
yeah,
having players do that these
yeah,
days.
yeah,
Um, so that was kind of where I was out, but otherwise, I thought it looked
yeah.
interesting. I know a lot of the classic board games or like that, a lot more of the bigger crowd would have kind of that take that, so maybe they'd be into this a little bit more.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah. But yeah, the pledge levels would be, you get a print and play of it for $13. You could get the zombie pledge, which is an actual produced version of it, for $29. Or you could up it and kind of get it in a little VHS kind of container box for third. No, that's the European one. For what would this be? Slasher. How much is that? Well, 45 euros, so $58 for that, which I probably wouldn't go to that level just to have the fancy presentation of a box. Well, it is cool, and I like that gimmick,
I
but
do like the gimmick. I like the thought, but I think for what the game is, I don't know that
yeah.
it'd be worth like 60. And I think those are all sold out now, but I think their most recent thing says, what was it, March? There's a date. You go to their most recent update, and they say in there that there's like going to be one more batch of them. So if that is something you want, make sure you're ready on that time, because I don't know how long they're going to last.
Oh,
There's not
yeah.
very many of them, which I find a little disappointing. I don't know
Yeah.
why they're limiting it to a certain amount. Maybe it's production run wise. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
just like I assume since they all sold out that people would want that, so I don't know why you wouldn't
Yeah.
just offer the option for
Yeah.
everyone to get it. But
Yeah, I don't know.
okay,
I don't know about that. But yeah, it's if you're a fan of these guys and you listen to all their episodes, and I mean, your mind is made up. I'm guessing, you know, if you're going to get this one.
Mhm.
For me, probably not. Although I like the presentation, the art, and the theme, but like you said, maybe not. Maybe a little too like take that for us.
Mhm.
And on to the third horror themed game, Dying
Yeah.
Light, the board game,
This
based
was the one
on.
I didn't originally think horror, but yeah, I guess it is.
You didn't think horror? Look at that zombie right
I forgot it was zombie.
there. It's based on a video game, which I might have seen some playthrough at some point. Not sure. Nearly a million. Well, not nearly. It's 100,000 short of a million, but
90% of the way there.
90% of the way. Almost 6,000 backers. Still 5 days to go. And this one is, I think it's from the people who did, was it a Call of Duty
Apex.
game or Apex? That's what it was. And it kind of had this 3D terrain with these buildings. You kind of hop around on them, and
I had to look
that's
because it looked very similar.
Yes.
I'm like, I know we covered something that looked very similar to this, and it was an Apex, which I think is still outstanding. So I just always think about that,
You
just in
gotta warn
case.
people. You gotta warn people.
Just in case when you're backing it, they do still have outstanding thing. Not saying anything. I think it was due June 2024, so there's still time for that. But I always get a
Yeah.
little hesitant especially when you start having 5,000 backers on something. I think
Yeah.
that one did pretty well too. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming they have the funds to cover it, but I know the board
Hopefully.
game space
Hopefully.
can get tight very quickly.
Yeah, it can. It can. And this one, and they're big projects, and this one's definitely a big one as well. So you can get a few additions here. You can get the standard pledge here for 60 euros, which has miniatures for your figures that you'll be playing in the game, or you can upgrade it to get miniatures for all of the zombies and monsters as well for 110 euros. And then obviously you can pick and choose expansions, I assume, or you can just go all in with either deluxe or not deluxe for significantly more, 200 euros, hundreds of dollars. Which we need one of these every week, one of these giant games that you can go hundreds of dollars in. And
It's
it's tempting, but it's luckily
yeah, it
so
looks
much that not going in on it currently
yeah, it looks like
without
the
knowing.
miniatures look good. It's an interesting thing having kind of a
I
3D
really
board.
I really like the miniatures, kind
Yeah,
of in the action poses here.
I would agree. And yeah, I think not having any, well, I guess maybe you've played it, but I have not played the video game that's based off of, so not having that connection, it's not like it pulls me in that way.
Custom dice.
Those look good too. I do think the production overall looks pretty good. But yeah, it's just kind of another one of those big games, and I feel like we already have several that we have to
Yeah.
even play for the first time. So I just don't know that.
Glow in the
Uh,
dark, which is that just the most wasted feature in games when they have glow in the dark aspects? Because we almost never use it. We only have it like maybe a couple, but
yeah,
I just
it's just
don't.
not something. It's cool,
You don't
a cool thought, but it's not
get it.
ever really useful.
Yeah. Maybe we just need a black light. But yeah, I think kind of the game is just you are not so much just going and annihilating everything on the board. You're trying to sneak around, doing parkour, hardcore parkour through the city and all the 3D buildings, and trying to survive. And switches from day to night, and it gets even scarier and more deadly. I feel like that's a cool twist to set it
Yeah,
apart from just all the others, where it's just roll a bunch of dice, kill a bunch of things, where you do get to kill things in this, it sounds like, but it's not quite the focus.
right.
And you can go get an axe if you want. One of these.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, what is this?
What is
What
it?
is?
I
It's
assume
like
that's iconic from the video game, but
it must be, but I was like, why is this a pledge? You could just get that. I don't
yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that at all.
Just
Why?
that's what I'm here for. I think
I
that
mean,
should have
yeah, it
its
looks
own
cool,
entry.
especially if it's in the game or in the game and you like
Yeah.
it or whatever. But
That should have its
it
own
just
entry
feels
on
so weird.
BGG.
It should.
That axe. Yeah, shipping as well is going to be about $20. So it's spendy. It is spendy, but if you love it,
Yeah, it
maybe take
looks
a
good.
look. And then one that sounds like it could almost be a horror themed game, Doomscroll, a fantasy steampunk social media card game. It's just met its goal at 10,000, 179 backers, a week to go. And this one is also, I think, I wasn't able to understand all that was in there and
Yeah,
how the game worked and effects of cards, but it seemed pretty simple as you were getting cards and putting them into your kind of social media feed,
yeah,
which I like that from the fun that could be had of it, of the different tweets or messages that could be there.
right.
So I think this game is going to have to depend on humor in that way, and maybe little references to other things. Where I think games like Clank kind of do that really well. So if this
Mm-hmm.
does have a good set of those, I think that's definitely going to help it. Gameplay wise, it's seemingly a game that can be understood and played by even the most elderly of gamers. In a nursing home, it seemed like, according to the video we noticed.
It did seem like they had their either parents or grandparents with them playing. I didn't fully understand that if they were
We've
trying
gotten
to
very
show
few games played with our grandparents, so if this is one,
true. I don't know
if
if
they're
they
looking
were
for a
trying to show us
steampunk
welcoming to
social
everyone.
media
I don't
game,
know. Right. I just like I don't know. It doesn't seem like the theme that would fit for them, but maybe. But yeah, I thought there could be some interesting stuff with this. I couldn't really tell if it sounded like you could play some things to like discard people's things too. I wasn't really sure if there was some take that in this one as well, which I already previously said not the
yeah,
biggest fan. And yeah, like these both this and the other one too kind of seemed like maybe shorter, possibly shorter games. So sometimes that in that case it doesn't matter as much to me.
yeah.
But um, yeah, it looked fine, but it for some reason made me think of recently played Fit to Print, where you're making your
Oh, yeah,
newspaper, and it's like a real time game, and I just really I did not expect to enjoy that one as much as I did, and I like that one quite a bit. So I would personally just much rather have that one, which like I understand it's not quite the same thing, but the
yeah,
theme seems similar, and
yeah.
I've
Kind
actually
of
played that one, so I
advertising.
just know that. So I'm in my head comparing the two, and yeah, just thinking, well, I love that one, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not fair, but it's fair to have that thought.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's $30 for a copy of it, and is that the only level there? I don't believe there's a deluxeified version or anything like that. Um,
You can be
so
the influencer for $750.
you can get 100 million copies of it. Uh, but yeah, I like the look of it. I like the artwork of the
Yeah.
game. Uh, it's very clean and kind of it felt familiar to some other games. Thinking almost gamey feels of like Andrew Bosley artwork, kind of
Hmm.
in some aspects. Maybe that's just because he did Skyrise that's coming out, and that's steampunky.
That's
Maybe
true.
that's why I'm getting the feel of it. But yeah, I think it looks really good. And December 2024, have they done any? They have done. Oops, looking to scroll here. Game Storm. Okay, I do not know. So
Well, I got two created, so I've had at least
not
one
too
other.
creative, unless it's this one, but canceled. But
Well,
no, I think I looked. I don't. I think it was a different game. I forget what it was. So yeah,
hmm,
it's an interesting theme. Maybe not overly interesting gameplay to us.
right.
And Chroma Arcana, a tactical card game of dueling mages. Uh, Speaking of gameplay that feels like it's been done 5 million times, that's what I felt when I looked at this. Oh, you got your board. They've got their board. Play some spells and things like this, and charge them up and activate them at the right time. I'm like, okay, we don't have many of these, and I have no clue which one I would enjoy most. So
Yeah.
I'm just immediately not interested in it. But if that's the kind of games that you like, and you do have a lot of them, looks like another one. 1,100 people believe that. $65,000 worth.
Hmm.
It looks good. I like the artwork.
Yeah. I really like the artwork. That's
Yeah.
why, yeah, I wish it wasn't one of these. I wish it was some other Euro card game
And there
because, yeah,
is
I really like the artwork.
an expansion to this that brings cooperative nature into it.
Oh, yeah.
1 to 6 players, where you can just kind of battle against the game, which then made me think of Unmatched, like a kind of a 2 player dueling game that was then turned cooperative. So that got me a little more interested in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like you said, well, like I said, kind of for the last one, I had compared this to, or compared that to a game. I compared this in my head to Unmatched, and I just am like, yeah, if I'm gonna spend my money, I'm just gonna probably keep buying Unmatched sets as they come out. As crazy as that sounds, uh, but yeah, I really like the artwork in this one, and yeah, I just wish it was in a different wish it was a different game. Just I'm not saying that this game's bad. It's just it's one of those that it feels like it's in a crowded group, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I saw anything that really made me think, oh yes, this one stands out because you just kind of have your life points and you're just trying to get your opponent down to a certain amount. So
Yeah. I think the price is not bad. $37 for the base game. And then I believe there is, so you get a bunch of gems, a ton of cards, all awesome artwork. Or else you can get it for $49 with that expansion that does bring in a solo to 6-player cooperative version. I think $50 is pretty good for.
I think if I was to back this, I would back it at this level in case I did want to do that. Because it's not the worst, but at the same time, it's still pricier because you probably could find some of those head-to-head games for cheaper. I'm sure there are some cheap ones out there that are pretty good, proven.
Yeah. But definitely not add on these neoprene mats. We just aren't neoprene mat people.
We're not.
Say it every time.
But even if we were, I feel like that's the classic thing for these that I see, especially if they're on Kickstarter or GameFound or something. The classic thing is, here's a version where you have your mat in the middle of the game, even though it's like, I don't know. It's almost never like actually used for anything. It's just kind of to keep your card in the center.
Like, oh, you want slots? You want to visually see where the market of cards should go? There you go. Got little rectangles on a mat with some artwork for $50. And shipping is going to be another $20, which, again, like it often does, kind of sets it a little too much.
Yeah, it just brings it up. Yeah, unfortunately. Because, then you're getting almost $60-$70, and it's like, okay, that's probably a bit too much. But, I like I said, it might be my favorite artwork of the week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Ooh, that's beautiful.
This is what I wanted, Wormspan. Oh.
Yeah, it should have been Wormspan. Remake Wormspan with art by Kim Diaz-Holm. I haven't played Wormspan in person. It's probably beautiful.
That's true.
And then Logic and Lore, a cozy but competitive deduction game for 2 players. Got 500 backers, $16,000 a week to go. And this one is, I think, just pretty much pure deduction. You have 1 through 9 here, and you have those matching cards kind of mixed up on your side of the board. And you are lifting up your cards, showing them to your opponent, and asking them questions about if any of them are in the correct slot, so like the 7 in the 7 slot or something like that, or if they are kind of symmetrical, which means they add up to 10. So if they're a 7 and a 3, you ask them these questions to get information to try to then align all of your 1 through 9 in those spots to win the game. I thought that was pretty cool for deduction. Ever since Hanabi, I like kind of showing others my cards, but not knowing what they are. Which I don't know if that's really, maybe it's the same. I don't know. Feel like it's not quite the same because this is just deduction, pretty much. That's just a way of doing it versus like maybe a computer. But I thought it was pretty cool, pretty interesting way to do it. And there's an expansion in there as well, a bunch of mini things. You can add black holes, which will throw it off because they will always respond no to the questions that you ask. There's additional unique questions that you can kind of bid on or take control of from the, I think you have the 1 and the 9 represent the basic questions you can ask. I think there should be things in here later showing those, but then 2 through 8 will be more specific questions that you can ask about the 2 cards. So I thought it's a cool twist on deduction.
Yeah, I agree. At first, I thought deduction. I probably won't be that interested in this one, and Yeah, when I was looking at it, it looked a little bit more interesting than I thought, but it also made me wonder if it had a lot of replayability in it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I just wasn't sure if it would or if you'd kind of take similar strategies each time. I couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, does any deduction really have replayability? I feel
right.
like there should always be a right way to go.
That is
Way to
fair.
figure things out. It's just logic. But maybe
That's
not.
true.
Maybe not. The least replayable genre. They can do a print and play version for $8, the game for $19, the game and a play mat, so you know right where to put those cards for $40, or the game and a previous game released by them, $45. Just get the playmat by itself if you want for $25, or the playmat for the previous game, or
And the Horde of
possibly
Dragon Meeples.
Horde of Dragon, which these are pretty
Look
cool.
pretty cool.
You'd probably have 2 sets in the core game. I think there are wooden meeples in there, but if you want 7 different colors, 20 each, those are pretty cool meeples.
Yeah,
Can
I
use
like
those
both
in
of
your
those.
own games. Only $4 shipping as well, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Or 6.
Yeah, I
Order
think
the world.
price-wise, this one seems pretty decent, pretty good. So, yeah, if it looks interesting to you, if you like these kind of deduction style games, I think it's a solid one.
Yes, thank you, Weird Giraffe, for showing that cheap shipping can still be done. Hopefully, and then it'll be a horrible
What
failure.
Kickstarter is for, Pepper?
Yes, that is what Kickstarter is for. What it is not for, apparently, is Button Shy Games. They were hoping to get that title from you today, but they failed. But they have not failed in releasing 100 million pocket games here. I guess what are wallet games? This is another one, FantasyForm, a Button Shy wallet game, which I think is kind of re-implementing another one that they did in the video that I saw. It sounded like it's similar to some spaceship themed game. This one's got 29,000, 1,200 backers, 8 days to go. I kind of watched a playthrough of this and I started to get tempted. Like, I should probably try more and more of these wallet games. I have Sprawlopolis and some of its expansions and really love that. And I just love just they fit in your pocket. They're usually like 18 cards, and they can fit so much game into those cards and how they use them, the multi-use aspect. They're usually double-sided. That just intrigues me. And I was watching this, and I'm like, I should not have watched this. Now I'm tempted to look at all their other games, probably buy them, or at least a large amount of them. This one looked cool. It kind of has a few different rows. So here are cards that you can buy these potions or essences from uh, based on the prices determined on this row of cards. The rightmost one determines the prices for buying and selling. To buy those, sell those, buy low, sell high is usually what you're trying to do. And to gain money to also purchase different kind of abilities in these cards. And an interesting thing in this is that the cards in this row slide to this row to change your events and the prices throughout the game, and those then slide over into this upgrades row. So you're just cycling through all these cards in their multi-uses. I thought that was really cool aspect to do it and just really show what they can do with a single card. Mean 3 different things.
Yeah, I was gonna see what your thoughts were on this one because, yeah, so some of that seemed kind of interesting. That you're using 3 parts of that card when you're determining the price and kind of an event that happens or whatever. Seemed like for some reason it seemed like a little bit much for me. I don't know. There's something about it that it didn't really strike me. I don't know. Maybe I don't love the artwork or something. I don't know what exactly it is about it. Maybe it was just the way that it was presented on the table there. I don't know. Something about it didn't like catch my attention personally. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good game. I always like multi-use cards, so
Yeah.
it looks like they're doing that here. So would assume if they do it in a good way, that
Yeah.
it would definitely be one that I'd be interested in. But I think it's solo. Is it solo only?
Yes, it is a solo.
So it's a smaller one, so it's probably not that intimidating for a solo game versus some of these larger campaigns that we've maybe looked at, or cooperative things where you could play solo, or a little overwhelming. In this case, it shouldn't be too overwhelming. Like you said,
Yeah,
typically
yeah,
there are like 18 cards. I don't remember if that's what this one was, but
yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like you can get an expansion with it as well, Frozen Over. So you can print and play both those for $3. You can get them in their wallet form for $12. So that's another thing that is tempting because they are pretty affordable. Go and get an older game from theirs for 22, or an older game with its expansions for $32. Yeah, I'm tempted. I'm going to look into more and more of those games. I don't think I'll back this, but maybe down the line, this will be one that I do add to the collection. And shipping for the US, $5. Weird Giraffe has started a trend here.
See if it keeps up.
Yes, we will see. Doesn't matter. People are paying the shipping no matter what it is. They have 4,600 backers for this next one, almost $300,000, and that is Biome, another nature-themed board game for 1 to 4 players.
Should say another. It doesn't. Just take it, because you know people are gonna say it. Just say it for them, and they'll give you the credit.
They should. They should. I would have clapped. I would have clapped. I would have stood up and clapped. But yeah, it actually looked pretty good. All the artwork.
I was gonna say initially, I read Biome, I see the cover, I'm like, oh, okay, another one of these. But then, as I was looking and stuff, I'm like, okay, wait a minute here. it ended up being turning around on the game a little bit, being like, okay, maybe this one wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, and you're mostly sold by these nests. They are coming with actual little nests that you can put your meeples into. I mean, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Hopefully they hold together pretty well.
So my game, take notes for Wingspan.
Take notes. Give us actual twig nests. The wooden components are phenomenal. The screen printing on these two here, only in the deluxe version. I'm like, really? You couldn't put those two dots.
I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why?
They're so cute. You can't tease us. Then I'm like, well, depending on the price, I might just draw on it. Draw the little eye. It can't be that hard.
That's true.
And I think I saw some pictures that did have them kind of drawn on, unless that was the official version. Who knows? But yeah, it looks really good. Great artwork, great wooden components, screen printed or not, and awesome nests, hopefully. And gameplay-wise, it was making me think of kind of another one of those games, like a Terraforming Mars, Ark Nova, or Earth. It kind of really made me think of Earth or Forest Shuffle. Just kind of building this tableau, activating the cards, spreading them in different biomes, and scoring points in different ways. I thought that was cool. You can only activate the actions, they say, once per game. So that's different than a lot of those games. Like,
I do like the thought of that.
Firing them off again and again. Here, you really have to plan when you're going to do it. So that could be a really good thing, or it could maybe feel not so satisfying.
Because that's what I wasn't sure of, how it would actually feel, and what those powers actually are. Like, do they actually feel big? Like when you do your one-time use, you're like, that was the perfect time to use that. That felt really good. Or is it like, really wish I triggered this multiple times, like in Earth or like in Wingspan or whichever game you're playing. But yeah, I agree with the artwork on this one. Outside of that game board, I didn't love the look of it.
Game board looks like a casino table or something for
I don't know,
putting your bets down. I don't
like. Then the player mats look good, so I don't know. It looks like they're made by two completely different companies. I don't know what happened there, but I mean, it's not awful, but it doesn't feel like it fits.
It doesn't fit with the rest. Yeah,
right. But yeah, otherwise I really like the artwork. This is probably the other one that I would have said was my favorite artwork.
I like how the
Outside of
cubes
one
are
we
like
said
the
before.
biggest piece, the picture here. It's like they're the highlight. Look at that
You got some little
brain.
meeple things, and then you got these massive cubes.
The nest. The selling point, the nest. But yeah, it looks like this has a couple different game modes that you can add to it as well to change your difficulty, complexity. You can go up to deluxe to get the screen printing, 2 dots and a little swish there. Maybe 4 dots and 2 swishes if they're double sided. Little trays for your things, and a little mini expansion. But I think that's like $20 more.
Yeah,
Seems like a bit much. So either 54, which is
I
a
agree.
good price for the base game, or almost $70.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah, that was the tough thing.
might
When
hold
I
the
first
money.
saw it said screen printed, I thought maybe those ones came like that.
Oh,
And
and then
then
the
there was like
rest.
another version where everything was screen printed and like was even the next level. I did not realize it when I first looked at it. Like, oh, it just
Yeah,
means the eyes on those ones and the little wing. Um, but yeah, still looks good. Pretty solid production. I think I think of this one I would get the retail 'cause, yeah, I didn't know
yeah,
that I loved much of that stuff that was in the uh, deluxe
yeah,
edition. And
yeah.
also, I don't know if that's on the cover actually. If you scroll up on that to the right or
Oh,
right, no, maybe it isn't then. I
oh
wasn't
no,
sure
I
if it.
don't. I do not think it is. But if it was,
Okay,
that would be a hurt. I think that would
yeah,
hurt.
that's I got yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it is. But I was thinking, I don't think I want that huge
Deluxe.
banner across.
Yeah,
Like it looks like some pirate scroll or something.
it does. It
Doesn't
does.
throwing that on there.
Yeah, shipping's not the worst. $14. So.
It's right there.
eh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested in playing this one at some point. Hopefully, it comes to Board Game Arena, or maybe we do end up back in this. I think this is probably most likely two back of these, just
I would
because the
agree.
gameplay and artwork come together to be
This would be my
something
pick.
actually intriguing for being feels like done 1,000 times. And
I
maybe
agree.
it's just the nests. Maybe that's all that's drawing me. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think the artwork looks great too, and yeah, the nests don't hurt it. But yeah, going from initially thinking to actually being interested in it, I think that says a lot about it.
I think it'll make an
So
impact. Obviously,
yes,
it already
it's calling
has.
Spiel des Jahres right now. But yeah, those are all the projects for this week. We'll be back next week with some other, I think, pretty big projects. So subscribe so you can see when we put out that video. But otherwise, leave us comments below, letting us know which ones of these are your favorite. And we hope to see you next week. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.